Hey guys, Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films back again with Doctor Who Classic. Last time around we had Nightmare of Eden. What happened in that one?
There was very similar to the whatever that one was with the circus where they were reducing all the animals. Scientists had started reducing various animals to microscopic size, storing them on a crystal or something like that. And that seemed to be the Eden part of the story. As it turns out, though, two spaceships materialized at the same point at the same time. They kind of locked together. The Doctor and Roman, of course, land there, and their job ostensibly is to get the ships apart. But it turns out that there's a whole drug-running thing going on, and people who are thought to be dead who aren't dead, and this, that, and the other thing. Ultimately, it all gets figured out, and the bad guys get caught and punished.
Yeah, because the whole thing was a drug smuggling thing, and the drug was made from the ashes of a species on the planet Eden. So, but yeah.
And I read something right after we did that a lot of people thought the monsters were pretty silly looking, but for Doctor Who monsters, I thought they were, actually pretty good. I mean, certainly better than the gigantic jelly beans, whatever those things were.
Hold on. That's the breaking point for Doctor Who fans, is the, was it the mandrills from last episode? Yeah. Really? That was the breaking point. You've got to be kidding me.
I thought, again, I think I mentioned they look kind of like the Swamp Thing or the Man Thing. There was some comic book of the late 60s, early 70s, maybe late 70s. Very large head and shoulders, and then kind of tapered down into these narrow waists. They weren't scary. I'm not sure that they were meant to be scary looking, but they were formidable. I mean, they looked like they could rip you to pieces and eat you for lunch.
They were pretty par for the course for Doctor Who monsters, but yeah, they were big, they had claws. It's not something you could easily just defeat, so that was at least something, but yeah, really, that was the one where Doctor Who fans said, no, we do not accept this monster. Oh, well. I mean, we still haven't seen the comments from last episode, so there could be a number of reasons why people didn't like last episode. So, yeah, I was actually, as I was editing it, the last video yesterday, from when we're recording this, and as I was just going, I was just kind of blasting through it because I had to get it done. And I was skipping over just large swaths of dialogue and everything because we just weren't talking. And I thought, this is going to be a shorter video than normal. And then I posed to Twitter, does anyone actually care if Nightmare of Eden is a bit of a shorter episode? And the response I got was exactly what I thought I would get. No, that's okay. We don't need to put too much thought into that episode anyway.
Well, again, it wasn't bad. It certainly wasn't the worst of the things that we've seen.
Yeah.
It was credible.
Yeah, but there wasn't a lot to say about it.
Yeah,
definitely. But yeah, today we're on the last episode that was broadcast in season 17, The Horns of Nimon. So technically, there is one more story after this, Shada, and I am working on getting that. So there are various ways that is available, and basically the whole reason that wasn't broadcast was because there was a huge writer's strike, and it just went unfinished. But 40 years later, they finally finished it. They mixed live-action scenes with new animated scenes. They brought back Tom Baker and Lala Ward and a bunch of other people to redo a lot of the voices for the animated scenes. And so it is complete, but there's two different versions of it. There's one that's just like a 2.5 hour movie, and there's one that's actually just broken up into the 6 parts that it should have been. So I'm working on getting that, because that is way easier to film than like a 2.5 hour movie. Yeah. So I'm working on that. I've got a Blu-ray that's on its way from Amazon, and I'm going to hope that works out. But yeah, we'll be doing that next week, definitely.
Now, isn't it the one in is it the 5 Doctors? That there's little bits of that to show why Tom Baker wasn't able to do the 5 Doctors.
Yeah, I think so. I think they reused, because that episode just never aired, so they used a little bit of that footage left over in order to explain it away. Yeah. So they just edited it a little bit so he just sort of disappears. So, but that's what we'll be doing next week. For now, we've got this story, which again, like with Nightmare of Eden, I don't hear good things. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, obviously nobody has said anything specifically because they don't want to spoil the episode.
Yeah.
But I pretty much, in relation to this season, I heard... Well, I didn't really hear anything about Destiny of the Daleks, but I heard, City of Death is good, Creature from the Pit is okay, and then they said the next two after that are not good. But we thought Nightmare of Eden was all right.
Yeah.
It wasn't spectacular, nothing to write home about, but it was okay.
Yeah.
So now I just have no idea what we're going to be getting into here. So, and I can also see by the dates that are here on Amazon that we're about to jump into 1980, actually.
Ooh.
So we're finally leaving the 70s, which we pretty much started with the Third Doctor, and most of the 70s has been with the Fourth Doctor.
Yeah.
Because he just kept going for some reason. But yeah, we're finally moving on to the next decade. So that'll be 2 decades down, and well, honestly, not even a full decade to go, because show ends in 1986. So.
All right. I'm noticing December 21st, 1979. That was my first big show that I did in Oklahoma City. We did Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, and I played Fred, Scrooge's nephew. Then I got hired at the Oklahoma Theater Center on their resident staff and worked there for 3 more years after that. So this was a fun time for me.
Yeah. And now, all this time later... although the timing doesn't match up exactly, now we're watching this episode and you have since played Scrooge. So.
And Jacob Marley.
Yeah.
And the Ghost of Christmas Present.
And that.
And the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come.
And Yet to Come.
And Caroler when I had to fill in for one of my actors who was sick.
And Caroler.
And Charles Dickens.
And Charles Dickens. But more to the point. Anywho. We might as well just jump right into the Horns of Nimon and see if that's actually how you pronounce that.
Probably Nimon.
Yeah. It's a very different ship, but that's almost the exact same shot from the last episode.
Nimon will soon fulfill his
Nimon.
promise to us.
All right.
We must be patient. Our part of the contract will be fulfilled.
With this cargo?
Yes.
I'll go and check it's safe.
Weakling scum!
You don't see a lot of human traffickers in Doctor Who.
Doctor, what have you been doing?
Well, I've just been trying out a little idea I had for a slight modification of the conceptual geometer.
This is an old ship.
So what?
Don't you think that's a bit dangerous?
No, I don't. What could possibly go wrong? Wrong. I've simply got to stop saying that. Every single time I say what could possibly go wrong, something goes... Oh! I wonder what it would be like to be crushed to a singularity.
Don't stand there wondering. Do something.
What?
Put it together again.
Right. Head on.
You probably should have landed before you started this. Oh.
You all right, kid?
Hello, Sconnors. Sconnors, can you hear me? Sconnors, come in. Sconnors, control. Can you hear me?
Yo. That's a little too Wizard of Oz, don't you think?
Whoa.
I have spoken with the Nimon. The new sacrifices from Aneth are the last that he demands.
And we really are on the brink of having the promise fulfilled.
I believe we are, Sorak. I do believe we are. The second Skonon Empire will be born.
It's like a bad imitation of Jonathan Pryce.
I'm popping back to the TARDIS to get some gear. Here, take this. You might need it.
No, thank you. I've made my own.
Oh, really? Huh. You made this? Not bad. Bit basic, though. Huh. Thank you. Now.
Doctor.
Yes? Oh. So sorry.
Thank you.
So do we need to get Romana's sonic screwdriver?
I don't know if they sell Romana's screwdriver. Those are the loudest floor panels.
Sinan? We're up a gum tree without a paddle.
Define gum tree.
Well, it's a tree that gives gum.
Explain use of paddle in gum tree.
You wouldn't understand, K9.
Affirmative.
Leaving some chicken McNuggets, are you?
Turn back.
My duty is to get my cargo to the Nimon. We're late already.
Your duty is to save the life of the man who's just saved yours.
We must fulfill our part of the pact.
Turn back!
The Nimon waits for no man!
See, she was almost there. She just had a knife. He'd be dead. But it was good aggression. I missed that.
You dare disturb me at this time?
Master.
A little much,
Master.
but...
What is it, K9?
Futuristic Minotaur.
It's coming right for us.
Alright. It's kind of a weird cliffhanger, but that's alright. Okay.
I've done a melodrama before, and even jokingly, I didn't go that over the top.
As Soul Deed.
Soul Deed, Ski-Daddle, whatever his name is. Yes, I mean seriously, that's some Ming the Merciless stuff.
Yeah. It does remind me, because you mentioned Jonathan Pryce, it reminds me of when he played the Master in, was it Curse of Fatal Death? So.
Which is brilliant, by the way.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very strange setup. I do like, though, immediately it's like, they're so scared of the Scanosians. I don't know, the Scandinavians. I'm not really sure. But I like that because it's like they're so scared, but just because it's like, oh yes, they were very formidable like 70 years ago. They haven't really kept that up, but they just don't know that. So that's at least an interesting thing.
Well, it's one of those things where the people apparently on Skanos are still very highly civilized and well equipped, but the guys out in the field are a bunch of idiots.
Yeah, so yeah, and then it's the Minotaur is Nimon, which is I mean, and I know again we talked about the mandrills from last episode and how it's like, yeah, they're not great, but it seems strange that like that would be the one that, you know, people would be like, no, that's too goofy. It's like this one is pretty goofy. Honestly, if the head was more proportional to the body, it would be okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it would still be a guy in a rubber horse head, but it would be all right.
Kind of like a buffalo to me.
Yeah.
And again, I'm assuming the horns are going to play obviously some kind of part since they're in the title, but they don't look realistic. You know.
Yeah.
Any animal horns are even unicorns, except for the unicorns and things, never are straight like that. They're usually have some kind of curve to them.
Yeah. So, but that's the thing, is you assume the horns will be a part of it because it's in the title. But I've come to learn that Doctor Who titles are rubbish. So the horns are just there because the guy has horns. So.
Get away from those controls!
We can't just leave the doctor back there.
Get up! Get up! Into the hold! Move!
Well, don't leave the screwdriver there. Use it to launch himself.
Well, you can hang around. I'm going to find a way out.
What's the matter?
Someone's screwdriver. I must have left it behind.
Good job.
Slowly, the great pact nears its completion. The Nimon be praised. Skonos shall rise and conquer.
Oh, maybe those are the
So what is
horns.
this Nimon?
I'm not even a prince. I'd run away from home. I was on the road, they found me. And rather than be sent back, I made up some story. The king believed it, and well, here I am.
You have got problems, haven't you?
So no.
The final tribute at this very moment, gentlemen, is being paid to the Nimon. I think you all appreciate the irony that in providing these tributes for us, the planet Adam
Huzzah.
has given us the power with which we shall reconquer them, and from there go on to build the second Skars Empire.
And there was much rejoicing.
Our factors await the secrets the
Ooh.
diamond shall unfold to us. It shall be the greatest empire the galaxy has seen, an empire of fire, steel, and blood. Skonos shall rule!
They're just immediately conquered by the Daleks.
The Nimon did this, didn't he?
That was a good effect, though. I should ask, why does he have stickers, but...
He has everything in his coat.
Well, yeah.
But he's doing the equivalent of Hansel and Gretel, who left breadcrumbs, or Theseus, who unraveled a tunic or something, with some kind of thread that led him to get to the center of the labyrinth to find the Minotaur.
Well,
This way he'll know how to find his way back.
You shall die. Mercy, Lord Nimon! I brought you the tribute!
He's wearing platform heels. Or platform soles. Let's see who Soldi is. Graham Crowd. No.
I didn't write a single thing in that episode. Alright. I'm gonna have to admit, I preferred Nightmare of Eden.
Yeah.
I thought that was a more interesting mystery. Again, it wasn't amazing or anything, but I was more interested in it.
And although it's very subtle, there's a good 5 minutes of what we saw in this episode that's padding. Walking through the maze, doing this, that, and it was just slowly, it was just adding padding into it, because obviously there's not much of a story here. So far.
Yeah. And I mean, it's because the costumes are very interesting. They're strange, but they're very interesting. I will say, I think it's the problem of both of them back to back, both very heavily being on these, space sets, that it's like, this is a little too similar, and you don't have anything that's very interesting. And then it's all okay, but then you cut back to the Nimon, and I remember how stupid he looks, and I'm like, man, I don't know. And I don't know, and I feel like we already had, didn't we just have something with, well, I guess, because I was thinking of the Anethians being kind of, I don't want to say hippie-ish, but that sort of Doctor Who archetype, the old Thals and stuff. And I guess we just vaguely had that in the last one, just when they ended up getting high and stuff. So I don't know. I'm just not getting a ton out of this one.
Yeah.
So, but apparently nobody else did either. So we're not going to be. I don't think we're going to be getting too many words about this episode or our opinions. So,
Soldier on. Oh wait, I was going to say, where you just again there was a face where it stopped. I wonder if that's deliberate or if it's just completely accidental that they do that.
I'm sure it's just accidental, because I'm sure it's the same vortex that they've been using for about 7 seasons or so now.
Yeah.
So
This must be his storeroom, his larder. This poor thing must be waiting her turn. That's horrible.
Look, what are we going to do?
Well, there's no point hanging around here. Let's see if we can find a way out.
Oh, no, you don't. Stay where you are.
you know, if they're in suspended animation, you'd think Romano would be able to get them out.
Yeah.
You may...
Get out, everybody!
Why did you stand there? We can only have so many extras, so...
It is totally impossible to open. You did it. Yes.
Look out!
Master?
What is it? Some kind of machine. It's alive.
Well, you shut the door again.
Stop it!
You missed.
When I mentioned the black hole to Solly, you didn't seem to know what I was talking about.
Oh, well, people often don't know what you're talking about.
Exactly. Solly.
Go now and await your orders. The Second Empire.
Makes you wonder if all of them were just like the crew.
Sometimes occurs to me to...
You know, a couple of tums would help that gurgling.
What's that?
Think of something?
Remember how much Seth looks like Luke Skywalker.
Can think of a way.
Mork's egg. Nanu nanu.
You can make an omelet.
Mork calling Orson. Mork calling Orson.
There's another.
Welcome to Skonos, my friends.
Lord Nimon! Lord Nimon! It is I, Sardine.
Was that the exact same clip from the last time?
Maybe.
Come on. Is it there's someone coming?
I said that should do it. Come on. Romana?
He didn't think that through.
You meddling fool. You shall die.
You know, it kind of feels like this should be a 6-parter, because we're 3 episodes in, and nothing's happened. Like, normally we would get the rest of the story now, but there's only 1 more episode, and...
Apparently there's no story to get, so...
Wow. Yeah. Alright, folks, so you got us on this one. So, we thought Nightmare of Eden was alright. We didn't quite understand. Maybe everyone just sort of lumped both of them together. It's like they just didn't care for this one so much that it just sort of bled into Nightmare of Eden. I don't know.
This is reminding me of the Monty Python sketch where the guy who's an accountant wants to become a lion tamer. And when the interviewer asks him why, he says, it's just so deadly dull and boring. Charter accountancy. It's so mind-numbing. This is little. I'm sitting here going, I'm trying to stay awake during this because it is so bad.
Yeah. Last episode, I actually double-checked. After the episodes, we only talked for about 17 minutes. And I think, despite the fact that we watched 4 episodes, I think it was one of the shortest videos we've ever done for Doctor Who. But this one may take the cake because we're 3 episodes in. I have like all of 4 notes. I don't think we're going to be talking that much after this, so So it's gonna be a quick one, and we're just going to hope that Shada is interesting. So at the very least, it should be interesting watching the live action and the new animated stuff and see how that all worked and stuff. But hoo boy, this one's rough. So okay, I guess this does bring up the question, and we might talk about it more after the next episode, but. Which do you dislike more, this or Destiny of the Daleks?
That's a hard call. This one seems to be worse because it doesn't have Davros.
Yeah.
Davros is at least semi-interesting. Soldeed, I mean, seriously, is a melodrama, not just a melodrama, but a melodrama villain. The only thing we haven't seen him do is the demonic laugh, mwahaha.
Yeah.
But the costume, I mean, seriously, that's straight out of Flash Gordon. That's Ming the Merciless with the gigantic collar. I'm surprised he doesn't have a widow's peak, and the over-enunciated and elongated speeches to everyone. It's just, seriously, and I don't know if that's the director, if that's what it says in the script. The actor's only following instructions like an actor should. I've been told to do things that I disagreed with by a director, but, that's their vision. So it's cringeworthy.
Yeah, so...
You meddling fool! You shall die!
Sith, well done.
Is he dead?
No, just knocked out.
Now you've got a stick.
A pointed stick.
At least you can hit people with it.
Doctor, where are you?
You! Stop, as you heard.
But walking down that ramp in those gigantic souls was very difficult.
Well,
If it's compatible, it'll work better than the original. On the other hand, if it's not compatible...
What?
It'll be a bang so big you won't even hear it.
Oh, Doctor, look!
Oh, and there it is.
good job.
What is this place?
It's Soldy's laboratory.
What am I doing here?
Soldy brought you here.
Kindly remove me from this surface.
First, give me a demonstration of your power.
That was merely a warning. Kindly remove me from this surface.
You asked for it.
I've been experimenting with possible uses for it for years. I even tried to get the Nimons to help, but they weren't interested.
Can I have this?
We can see right through. You're not very well hidden.
Pursue them.
They all move around like Jack Sparrow.
Why is the rum gone? Don't hit your horns on the door.
Pursue them.
You know what's weird? They're clearly not like switching to a red light. It's clearly some digital filter red light.
Yeah.
There's nothing else about the lighting changes. Now that's a bit different.
What is going on here?
Now we're back to padding.
Well, yeah.
Well, come on, old girl. There's quite a few millennia left in you yet.
Thank you, Doctor.
Not you, the TARDIS.
Alrighty.
All right, so I'm trying to think, is there anything from the time period that this was inspired by. I'm really kind of going back. There's an underlying theme of what happened World War II reference, right before World War II. The appeasement of the Nazis. The giving up of the Sudetenland in what was at that point Czechoslovakia. The Anschluss, which took Austria back into Germany. And people kept saying, if we give Hitler what he wants, then there won't be a war. And that's kind of what was happening there with them saying, hey, there's only one, we give him what he wants, he'll give us what we want. That's a real stretch for that. They did mention locusts. I know that there were lots of famines caused by these plagues of locusts during this time period. But, and I almost hate to mention this, I know we had one here in the United States. I'm assuming it happened also in Europe. This was the real beginning of the anti-immigration phase of politics, where, for example, the United States had always welcomed Mexican immigrants in the 40s and 50s because they were able to do the work there in California and in the southern states to essentially feed the United States. But somehow the rhetoric turned against them, and now, we're up to the era of the former president who literally was denying people simply based on country of origin or race or religion, that sort of thing. I can't remember if there was anything going on in Great Britain at this time, but again, it's just that slight tinge of, we can't let these immigrants in or they'll take over the whole place sort of thing. And if that's what they were going for, I don't know, it didn't seem to work given the militaristic nature of the rest of it. So, I don't know.
It could have been all of that, but either way, it was dreadfully boring. So, I mean, I suppose it could be something like that. Like I think you might have been a little closer with the appeasement, but even then, that is still a stretch. But yeah, I don't know.
Well, it also 1979 was the invasion of Afghanistan by the Soviet Union. North Vietnam had taken over South Vietnam, so maybe this was, kind of a vague reference to trying to contain communism where it was, not fight it directly, but allow them to take bits and pieces so that they won't start an overall, Third World War. So again, I don't know. If there's none of that behind it, then it's just a really kind of odd story. These essentially space locusts eating up a planet and then moving on. But again, why would you then have because trust me, in Africa and Australia, places where these things were happening, nobody wanted these insects and invasive animals, and even there were invasive plant species like the kudzu that was taking over the South in the United States at this point. So again, invasive species seems to be the underlying theme, but I don't know. It's really kind of very vague and unfocused.
I mean, there was an episode of Next Gen, I think it was called Symbiosis, where there were basically these two planets, and one of them had a drug that they basically gave to the other planet, and the drug didn't do anything. They just, it was just a normal, just sort of drug, just a narcotic. And they were so addicted to it that they became so dependent on it. It became a sort of symbiotic relationship, and then the Enterprise comes in, there's all this stuff, Picard gives a speech, all that, nice next gen good stuff. So maybe it's something similar to that, where it's like, well, the Nimon comes in as a god, and it's just that they do want to help it, but I guess less of locus and more just it is supposed to be symbiotic, but the way Romana says it at the end, it's more of a parasitic relationship. Yeah. So, but I feel like, I mean, I don't know, I guess because they didn't know, because Soldi didn't care what the Nimon was getting out of this, and he never knew. Yeah. It was only Sorak who sort of speculated, well, why is he doing this? Is he getting nothing out of it? But to them, they were getting new ships. Of which I think you could have found different ways of getting those ships. Like, find something you can trade for this, thing. Yeah. Find a commodity. You have to have something. Was there anything else on this planet? It looked like one city that was some sort of positronic circuit.
Yeah.
And nothing else on this city.
Yeah.
What about Aneth? We never really got the rest of them. You know what? What was the last episode of season 16 called? It was the one with the 2 planets, and it was the last piece of the Key of Time.
Yeah, Axios and Xenos. I don't remember what it was called.
Yeah, but that episode, this feels like it wanted to be that, because you kind of have the 2 planets. Because honestly, I kind of forget that that Seth and the others are Anethians. Like, they mentioned that at the beginning, like, oh yes, these are they're the tributes from Aneth, but we never get anything else about that. All we get is, well, Seth's gonna be the hero, even though his backstory didn't make any sense. So he is just some guy who, when he was found, he lied, said he was a prince. Somehow the king was dumb enough to believe that story, and thus he became a prince, and he was going to be the hero.
I originally had a thought that was vaguely similar to the Oedipus story. When Oedipus hears as a young man that he is destined to kill his father and marry his mother, he leaves the country of his birth, not realizing that he had been adopted. So he moves to a neighboring country where he's traveling down the road one day and meets an old man on the road, and the old man won't get out of his way. They get into an argument, and he kills it, not realizing that that old man was the king of Thebes, and he had accidentally killed the king. And then he goes on to, fix the problem of the Sphinx, and they ask him to marry the queen, even though she's many, many years older than him. And he doesn't realize until much later that the queen that he marries was actually his mother, and the man that he killed was her husband. And so, it was just, here's this young man out on the road who pretends to be a prince and, makes it all the way up to being the great tribute. So, I don't know. That's a vague stretch. Very, very, very long stretch. But, again, you had the Minotaur, who, oddly enough, looked slightly Egyptian from the waist down, because he was not wearing a Greek robe. He was wearing more of that Egyptian thing. So, the costumer, the monster maker for this show, really kind of drew on a whole bunch of different. The actual people there in their military uniforms, again, that looked like the guards in the Wicked Witch of the West Palace to me, except they were in black instead of green and gold.
Yeah, and I guess it could have been that he was supposed to be a parody of Luke Skywalker, because you're right that he definitely has that Mark Hamill kind of look, but at the same time, at the end where it's like, even though this wasn't out at the time, it's like, Tika's going to create so many legends about him, and he's going to have to live up to that. And you don't really get that in the original trilogy. And of course, this is only 1979 when this was written, so only the original movie would have been out by then. But at the same time, that then does technically become what happens once you get to The Last Jedi.
Yeah.
But obviously they wouldn't know about that. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking like, oh, here's, this kid, he just grew up on some farm, on Aneth. He gets flung into all of this, and somehow he becomes the hero of, his people and stuff. So maybe he's a vague reference to Luke Skywalker, in the same way that the Nimon could be a vague reference to appeasing Hitler in World War II. I don't know. It could be. And this is probably the most thought that has been put into this story.
I'm going to say the writer was probably smoking some of the good stuff.
Yeah.
It's just, it's such a jumble of different visual images and storylines, and trying to find the through line, whether this is based on historical perspectives or geographical and agricultural perspectives. Yeah, it's like we're just sitting. Seriously, my mind is reeling, going, "What the heck was that? Where did that? What idea inspired this?"
Well, and also just down to the formatting of the story and the pacing and everything, just to the fact that, like, okay, he realized, like, okay, the Doctor needs K9. in order to figure this out. But then as he was writing the 3rd episode, he suddenly realized, wait a minute, if I give him K9 now, the story ends. Clearly. So he had to... So I was like, okay, so why doesn't K9 get to the Doctor that quickly? Well, Soldeed's staff can, like, stun him or something. Like, okay, well, we don't really know what the staff is. It's clearly different from the weapons. Okay, that works. Now, Soldeed has K9. You get towards the end of episode 4. All right, it's time for K9 to come back to the Doctor so we can wrap things up. But wait a minute. The Doctor is trapped with the Nimon, and Romana is trapped on the other planet. Who would be there to go get K9? Well, Sorak was just too curious, so he put K9 back together, and after one little zap, he let K9 go. And K9 immediately trapped him in that room, too.
No, I had a thought as a writer that Romana was going to bring the other guy, who was the Cizek or Cezanne or
Cezanne. Yeah.
That she would bring him back and he would be able to tell the people, listen, because he would be obviously the counterpart to Soldeed. And he would say, I was the one who invited the Nimon to my planet and it has turned out disastrously for us. And then have a revolution. The people show up and, destroy the Nimon and then destroy the portal so that they couldn't go on. So that would have been at least a more action-oriented rather than the kind of snooze fest that we just sat through.
Yeah. That probably would have happened if Leela was still here. I do kind of miss the days when every episode was a new revolution of some variety. And we've kind of lost that with both of the Romanas. Yeah. But yeah, so
and I have to say, I still like Romana 1 better than Romana 2, simply because she was a real foil for the Doctor.
Yeah, like Romana 2 has her moments. I saw someone say they liked Romana 2 more because she's more passive aggressive, and I kind of wanted to reply. It's like, well, I liked Romana 1 more because she was more aggressive.
Yeah,
she would always tell the Doctor off, and I kind of enjoyed that.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, I do see the good moments with Romana too. They've definitely gotten better, even in an episode like this. She does still have some good moments. So yeah, she's not terrible, but I wish we could have had more time with the original. So,
all right, what few notes do you actually have that we haven't already talked about?
I have no idea. There were crystals, and then there weren't. There was a black hole, I guess.
And I, for a brief moment, thought, because he was talking about the black hole connecting you to either another part of space or a different space, and I thought this was where they were going to ultimately find Adric, who we know is coming up within the next season, isn't he?
I think so, yeah, because he shows up before the 4th Doctor regenerates. Yeah. So yeah, at some point that does have to happen. He's from like E-space or something like that. So yeah, well, because I also thought, because I looked around when they first showed the tributes, I looked at all of them, and I was like, I don't really recognize anybody here, and this would be like a perfect, group of young people that you could just pluck a companion from. So, because that's the problem, is every time we say a character would be a good companion, they're not the young plucky British kid that the Doctor could take along. So shows the difference in how we would write this compared to how they have written this. So yeah, I guess because I made a joke about the horns of Nimon, but I guess there were more than just him using the horns on his head. There was the transceiver or whatever on the building, so I guess that's something.
And again, it's just a minor costuming thing, a visual thing. I think the horns would have looked more menacing even with just a slight curve to them, because they didn't look real. As being straight like that, they did not look real.
Yeah. You know, I feel like the only reason the building was this positronic circuit that kept changing was just so that we could kill 10 minutes every so often. Because otherwise, because even like at the end when it's like, all right, this bomb is about to explode, let's get out of here. Let's get out of here. Oh, wait, here's the exit. Okay, K9, that's a wall. Now we have to talk about, is that a wall or is it the exit? You know, I would just think, just K9, just go through. Yeah. Just show them, just go through. Yeah. I don't know why K9 had to stop and, you know, explain it, and then he had to wait because he doesn't explain immediately, and it's just, alright. But we do have, now that we've watched all 4 episodes of this, we do still have the question I posed earlier. Is this worse than Destiny of the Daleks? I'm going to say technically yes, because while that episode was ungodly boring as well, there is the slightest edge that I at least know the Daleks and I know Davros, and it is something, and the Movellans were just the slightest bit interesting.
Yeah.
They were kind of goofy, but, you know,
they were not as goofy as the Horns.
Yeah.
Gigantic buffalo head.
Which is already, like, we already had that in the Demons. And which that, you know, I know there are people that don't really care for that episode either. I still like it because it still has, what's his name? The Master.
Yeah.
The actor's name. Delgado. Roger Delgado, that's right. It still has him just hemming it up to 5,000%, and he was always a joy.
And here's the thing. Roger Delgado, at his most melodramatic, was never as bad as Soldeed here.
Yeah. Like, Soldeed, he was trying too much.
Yeah.
He was doing too much of that, and the Master... I mean, the Master, honestly, and especially Delgado's Master, is just sort of the quintessential Doctor Who villain for me. Yeah. Like, I think he's the absolute best we've had. So, and especially, too, because he could also bounce off of the third Doctor so well. But yeah, it's just, you were trying too hard, and it does, especially with the costume and everything, it looks exactly like Jonathan Pryce in Curse of Fatal Death, which was supposed to be a comedy anyway. Now, if this was, you know, a Douglas Adams script where there was jokes every 20 seconds, this could have been a lot better. I wouldn't have cared if the story was convoluted and, you know, nonsense, if you had made it funny, but it wasn't really funny, it was just kind of boring. Yeah. You know, every so often, you know, Tika has to remind you that Seth is going to be the hero of Aneth, whoever they are. We never saw Aneth. We don't really know anything about them.
And they brought whatever the mineral was, and then they got put into suspended animation. So they needed the mineral to power up the machinery, but they were actually slowly consuming the people, and so they were packing the larder, packing the pantry with extras.
I think
it's a grocery run.
Yeah, I think it's that, you know, he needed the crystals just to power all his machinery and stuff, which also comes from Aneth, but he needs something to eat, and there is apparently nothing on Skonos for him to eat. I mean, I guess he doesn't want to eat the people of Skonos. Or he demanded, like, hey, I need some people, I need some tribute, and it's just that the people of Skonos were like, we'll give you somebody else instead of us. Yeah. So, but yeah, because they only showed the one body, and it was a good little effect of the body disintegrating. But other than that, it's like, I guess, yeah, he was stockpiling, because, I mean, that's he's got a lot of giant bull mouths to feed. So...
It's like the bug in Ben in Black. I'll need a snack.
Yeah, so... Alright. That's it. I think we did talk a little bit longer than we did about Nightmare of Eden. But I'd much rather watch Nightmare of Eden again than this one. So... So, next week is Shada, parts 1 to 3, I think. Assuming everything goes according to plan. But yeah, whatever it is, it has to be more interesting than this, just on the fact that it is half live action and half animation. And I did see some people saying that because, they recorded a lot of these lines, 40 years later, it's fun to, you can obviously see the difference in the live action and the animation, but it's also fun to just see the difference in their voices. Because, 40 years later, Tom Baker, he still sounds good. He definitely doesn't sound like he did in the 70s. But yeah, I'm at least curious with this. And I think it is supposed to be a Douglas Adams script. And it was the last one he did for Doctor Who. So yeah, curious about that. And it's 3 episodes at the very least. We're going to do half of it, whether it's 3 episodes or just half the movie. Either way, we're only doing half of it next week, and we will enjoy less time and hopefully a more interesting story. I mean, they brought it back 40 years later. It's got to be interesting enough. Like, if this was the one that got cut, I don't know if they would have brought this back 40 years later. So, and the good news too is you watch an episode like this, and I always have that innate fear that it's like, this is somebody's favorite episode. But we can safely say that's not the case this time.
Probably not.
No. So that's like the comfort after all this. It's like, oh, good. We're not alone. And that's probably the comfort to all of you. You're not alone. We did not like this either. So, with all that being said, we're Alex and Dad from 7th Hour Films, and we will see you guys next time. Take care. Alright guys, thanks for watching this video. There's a bunch of links on screen if you want to go click right any of those. There's a playlist for all of our Doctor Who classic reactions, as well as another playlist for all of my modern Doctor Who reactions if you want to go check those out. There's also a subscribe button and a Patreon button on screen, as well as other links in the description if you want to go check out any of those. See you guys later.